and welcome back to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win comes to us from Boom Boom Bang, who asked the question, who would win in a fight, Fifth Gate Lee or One-Tailed Naruto from original Naruto? I mean, technically speaking, I could use Fifth Gate Lee from Shippuden and One-Tailed Naruto from Naruto Shippuden, from Shippuden as well, but I think the general idea of the question is more the part one of the series. So, this is one of those fights where back in the day I would have said actually Lee should have won because it's clear he was way faster and all. But I roll back on that a little bit now. So let's actually look at what the fighters bring to the table, and then we can kind of scale them to certain characters to get an idea of where they actually land. Lee, as we know, is a taijutsu. When I say prodigy, prodigy doesn't work because that means he would naturally been gifted to taijutsu. When in actuality he had to work for it. But he's a taijutsu master because that's what he specialized in. His specific style is the strong fist, although he's also quite skilled in drunken fist as well, or the loopy fist, as the dubs did it, because, apparently kids can't experience alcohol, but they can experience people dying. Logic. As such, he's extremely capable, extremely fast, and there's very few in the village at the time of part one in a straight hand-to-hand fight in his age group, mind you, that would have probably been able to take Lee on. Neji, we know, could and beat him. Sasuke, at the time... See, Sasuke is an odd one, especially if we talk about where Sasuke probably ends up landing by the end of the part one series. But at the time, before he left the village, Lee still probably could have beaten him. Granted, he reached weightlessly speeds at that point by tuning exams, but if we're talking about tuning exams and we're talking about Lee opening the other gates, Lee probably still would have won that. It would have been difficult, but he probably still would have won that. Naruto could not have beaten him in straight hand-to-hand combat. Lee obviously has access to the gates, and he has a technique such as the Hidden Lotus, which is the spinning, throwing them into the ground technique. Then you have that is the primary lotus, sorry. Sorry, I got a little something caught in my throat. Hidden Lotus is what he does when he goes into the awakening gates of the third, fourth, and then the fifth. In the fifth gate, he is, again, blinding speed. His skin turns red. His muscles are tearing. He's able to deliver massive amounts of damage in a quick succession, but it tears his body apart. And we know by the time of Shippuden era and Boruto era, he had alleviated those risks. He had trained harder. But still, very dangerous, very difficult to do anything against. Naruto Uzumaki, by the end of the part one series, actually had solid combat hand-to-hand experience. He was very capable of thinking on his feet. He could summon the shadow clones to his aid, multiple massive amounts of them. He had access to the summoning jutsu, the Rasengan, and obviously the Fox Chakra, which he could actually call upon and draw upon either on his own, instinctually, or if the Fox had to put enough energy in there, force enough chakra in there, the Fox could force him into the one-tailed state. At that level of power, him and Sasuke were duking it out and kind of carving up the valley a little bit. They were taking stone off, like cleaving cliffs. They didn't obliterate the valley like they did in their final fight, but they were definitely going to town, creating massive energy arms and hands, enhanced speed beyond anything he had done prior to that. His cloak gave him a level of defense, and he can even create a Rasengan with one hand. He was very, very dangerous. The question, though, is he dangerous and strong enough to beat Fifth Gate released Lee? To answer that question, we kind of got to scale up and see who, by that end of part one, could beat Fifth Gate Lee. Gaara wasn't completely defeated by Lee, and Naruto beat Gaara. So does that just inherently mean that Naruto, by the tuning exams, would have beaten Lee with the Fifth Gate had Lee been around to use the Fifth Gate? Not necessarily. Gaara simply just had the defense to hold out against Lee. Naruto, on the other hand, had enough chakra to go into a drawn-out fight, continue to damage Gaara, and ultimately wear him down to the point where he won. As well as bringing in a couple extra hits here or there, techniques, summoning Gamabunta, all of that. And honestly, we are also talking about Naruto fighting Gaara when Gaara is truly going all out in that fight. Lee didn't even manage to beat Gaara when he wasn't going all out. But again, it's all context. You see, Lee was so fast, he was blitzing and hitting Gaara from all over at that point, whereas Naruto couldn't get a clear shot in a lot of the time. Lee also, by all accounts, at least at that point, was still much faster than Naruto. People like to use the scaling of Sasuke being as fast as weightlessly. Well, that's great, but Sasuke being as fast as weightlessly is not the same as Sasuke being as fast as Fifth Gate Lee. Because that's now cranking the weightless up God knows how many multiple angles, or multiple scales. Like I said, I actually think Lee, if he went Fifth Gate against Sasuke in the Chunin exams, as he was, might still have been able to win, because the level of speed at that point would have been way beyond what Sasuke was using. If they were to go toe-to-toe weightless, Sasuke would probably actually win that fight because he's got his Sharingan and is as fast as Lee at that point. But if we're talking about cranking that speed up further and that power further, Lee, I think, probably would have edged him out. And I think he edged out Chunin exams Naruto. But okay, let's scale that up even beyond there. Let's talk about after the exams, after the Tsunade arc, and then the Sasuke retrieval arc. The best way to gauge, because they were basically even, and Naruto probably could have won the fight, but he wasn't trying to kill Sasuke. But the best way to gauge if Naruto actually could beat Lee is ask the question, do we think Sasuke at that point in time is stronger than Fifth Gate Lee? And I've seen arguments that say that he is. And by all accounts, both him and Naruto are stronger than Lee in the sense that they have chakra they can use. They have multiple techniques. They have more under their belt than just taijutsu. The question here, though, isn't whether or not they have more under their belt. The question is, are they faster? And are they just packing a stronger punch? That's ultimately what this just comes down to, is a speed and power fight and of taijutsu skill. So do we see anything in that fight that implies that they are faster than Lee? And the answer to that, I think, is no, actually. Because, look, they're moving fast, and they're probably even faster than they are in the Chunin exams. But Fifth Gate is pretty high up there. I don't recall seeing anything that implies that they were faster than Lee. So, look, now maybe someone can go in the comments and argue against that, and argue in fact, and maybe I'm dead wrong, because I am trying to go off of what I remembered from the fight, admittedly. But if I'm going by they're moving fast, they're probably faster at this point. If we're to hypothetically say that they both got serious speed amps from their curse mark and the QB amp, it's then possible to argue that they are, in fact, moving faster than Lee. But again, I don't see enough. The problem also with saying that I don't see enough evidence is there's just no indication how fast Lee actually was moving. He was moving so fast at a point where it seemed like there were multiple of them for a while, or at times. There's never a point where Sasuke and basically almost to the point where he was creating after images, but not quite. He did seem to be moving so fast they just couldn't keep up. Sasuke and Naruto weren't quite doing that. So what I think, and this is my opinion, feel free to send your hate mail in the comments. I think Lee might be faster in the Fifth Gate. I think. But honestly, that might be the only thing Lee has over Naruto at that point. Because remember, we're talking about a fight between these two, kind of their peak in the series at that point. So Naruto has to be allowed to be in the one-tailed state, which means he's now got more chakra than he's ever kind of had at any one given time, because he's got the Fox chakra added on to his. He's still got access to his Shatter Clones, the Rasengan, which he can do one-handed in this form, as well as the chakra being able to stretch, attack, grab, and summon a giant chakra hand, I think, at one point in the original fight. And he does it again in the rematch fight at the end. He's packing way more power at this point than Lee is. Lee might have a speed advantage, but because it's an endurance, it's a stamina and endurance issue, a durability issue, and Naruto can take hits for an individual who's dishing out far more damage than Lee is at this point, Even if Lee has a speed advantage, and I think he might have a minor one at best, it doesn't really matter if he can't do lasting damage against Naruto, who can then in turn deal far more damage than Gaara ever did to him, because he's still now moving at probably relative speeds to weightless Lee at that time, if not higher speeds. So even though Lee might be faster, he's in probably, what's most likely happening is he's moving at such momentum at this point that when he goes in for a hit, Naruto can just come in, move, and just, even if he gets hit, just come in and use the momentum against him and just drive a Rasengan into him. Or just gut check him and throw him back and just grab him with a hand and then just hit him again and kind of just yo-yo him back and forth a bit, or paddleball him back and forth a bit. Ultimately, I would go one-tailed Naruto in this. One-tailed Naruto just has way more over Lee at this point in the series than Lee has going for him. Lee at best, I mean, I keep trying to iterate this because it's just my interpretation of it. At best, he is a little faster, and that's at best. Other than that, though, Naruto's now throwing out way more damage with his strikes, his attacks, than Lee is. Lee might be faster, but Naruto still got enough relativistic speed compared to him to be able to react appropriately. And then counterattack with actual attacks that would deal more damage than Gaara ever did to him. So, yeah, I'd go one-tailed Naruto in this fight. But that's just my opinion. Look, I fully acknowledge I don't know everything. And if someone thinks they have the better idea of the fight than me, that's fine. Just put it in the comments below. Again, my only request is don't be a jerk about it. In fact, let me rephrase that even more. Don't be disrespectful. I've had people kind of be kind of like know-it-alls about stuff, especially when, like, in my death battle predictions, they've been a bit like, dude, what the hell are you doing low ball on this? I'm like, okay, fine. I was wrong. Fine. But just don't be disrespectful, especially to no one in the comments. Disrespectful to me is one thing. I kind of just ignore it. But disrespectful to someone in the comments, that's where I get more pissed off and might either get rid of your comment or ban your comment. So thanks for watching. I'll be enjoying. I'll see you next time.